Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it is time for my client Michelle's vlog, and this is going to be the last week where we do this particular training protocol. It's definitely difficult. Again, she is a little worried about recovery at this point. She got sick, had to deal with that. So we're going to go with something a little more base building. Again, I'm going to take her back over to more traditional conjugate, but we're going to make some changes in that we're going to keep the exercise variation very low on max effort. We're still going to rotate everything weekly, but we're going to keep these variations real tight, right? And I'm only going to run about 8 different total lifts for her. So she'll be able to hit each lift again every 4 weeks. Then we're going to go back to the dynamic effort work with bands for her. And we're going to keep some of the changes that we have made in the supplemental work here. Things that she has really benefited from, which you'll see through this video, that are really going to help her weak links, going to be like her hip thrusts. If we're going to do incline benching, all of that stuff. Things that are more novel for her that have helped bring her lifts up a little bit while we ran this phase. And I want to be clear, she got stronger while doing what we did similar to my own training. Okay, so what you're seeing here, we're hitting training maxes. In her case, oftentimes close to true maxes. On all the big lifts, and then we do hypertrophy work afterwards, right? So these first few clips are just going to be from her training maxes, and I'll throw 2 of the days of the hypertrophy work in throughout this vlog. But so what we do, we take up her squat, bench, and deadlift up to a heavy single, the bench on its own day, and then the squat and deadlift are combined on a lower body day. And then we do all of our upper body hypertrophy work, and then we do our lower body hypertrophy on the squat and deadlift day. And I put up shorts and reels on all my platforms of her other lifts through the week, so you can see what all she was lifting on these. It's all available there, because I tend to put her lifts up every week for everyone. But again, she's starting to notice that this can beat you up very quickly training this way. Not everybody can do this long term. It tends to work really well for short periods of time, by the way, which we almost always see, and it really lets you see where you're at on your classic lifts. A lot of times people then need to go over to a little bit more rep stuff, kind of like what I do, or we can run it into little 3-week linear waves, right? And to rotate through those every week so that the rep ranges change. Or you can do similar to what I'm doing. There's different approaches you can take that work. And I do like the system we're using here. I've used it myself before in the past. Even again recently, I have some clients who we train that way. But again, be aware that it can become taxing very quickly. Okay, it can become taxing. But it's a great way to see, to really dial in your big lifts, to really find your weak links, see where you're weakest, because now that your technique is in on them a little bit, muscular weaknesses tend to come out real fast. You tend to notice them very quickly. And we're addressing that with all of her work, like all this incline work, right? The incline benching works very well for where she's weakest on the bench, right? And we need to get her bench up, which again is going to be, a lot of it's just going to be about getting her upper body bigger, right? Adding muscle. So right now we're doing pause benching, we're doing incline benching. She does chins here. I'm going to take her over to all rowing for just a bit, because we haven't done much rowing again for this phase, and I do feel like chin-ups and pull-ups tend to cause overuse in my experience relatively quickly. There's also studies on it. They tend to injure me pretty quickly, historically. But there's some data that's been collected on that over the years. And even though I have a lot of lifters who love chin-ups, and they like to have them in their programming, and she's one of them, I don't always like to have them in year-round. I just don't. I have found it can become problematic eventually. It's just one of those exercises that overuse can accumulate easily, and then injury risks go up. And it doesn't detract from them being phenomenal exercises. And in the case of people like me, they're injury prone with them. But she's gone through a good phase. She's not progressing on them at the moment. Everything is kind of stagnant with them. She's got a good base on them, but it's like, well, it's time to rotate some stuff in. Right? I want to rotate some stuff in. I want to see if I can get some further adaptations, right, in her upper back and everything. And so we'll rotate back over to some movements that will help facilitate that. So I'm going to put in a couple of row variations. I want to vary that a little bit for her. Because again, we need to see everything getting thicker. We need more muscle. And she's done a great job. She's done a great job putting on a lot of muscle. But we have to keep that going because you're watching all these training maxes. Neurologically, she's peaked. There isn't much else we can do on the nervous system side, on the intramuscular coordination. We've been running weeks of training maxes on her classic lifts. Okay? All that we could possibly achieve further there is to sustain what we've already developed. There is no further development to be had there in terms of neural drive on those movements and motor pattern. Well, what does that leave us with? Hypertrophy. Okay? Leaves us back with hypertrophy. We just have to get her bigger. Got to get her bigger. And it really is that simple. It is that simple at this point in the game. Although she's been frustrated here on her deadlifts because they don't have a deadlift bar at the gym now. So I have her using this Cerakoted power bar, which I think is going to be the best one. And she's like, I hate it. It's like, well, it's okay. It's still going to be the best bar from what I can see you got available to grip. Let's work with it. And, you know, at the very least, when you know that you go to deadlift with a power bar, you know you're going to be stronger than whatever you can do on that bar. Because she gets a bit out of the deadlift bar. I don't get much out of it, which, you know, is kind of interesting and surprising. The heaviest deadlift I've ever pulled on camera has been with my Texas power bar, not my deadlift bar. I've not actually hit quite that heavy of a deadlift on a Texas power bar ever, or a Texas deadlift bar. It's interesting. And I think it goes to show how our strength curves vary a little bit. And it's not that the potential shouldn't be there, it's just that I don't really actualize it. I'm fast. I'm a fast puller. I get good power out of the bottom. I wedge in tight. All right. So these things really vary. They vary a lot between lifters. And that's one of the things that's always fascinating when you watch different lifters of something as simple as the bar change. You know, usually sumo pullers get the most out of the deadlift bar, by the way. They get the most out of it. So what else are we doing for her supplemental work, though? Right after we're squatting and deadlifting, we are then doing hip thrusts. We do leg presses with a single leg. All right. I'm not crazy wild about the leg press she has access to. Even though there's a lot of great stuff at her gym, this can go to show that sometimes even well-equipped gyms, not everything is perfect. I don't like this leg press. You know? I feel like if I had a different leg press, I could get more gains for her. But look at where her squat has come along. Technically, this is a squat accessory, yet we've still made phenomenal progress on it. Right? We've made phenomenal progress. But, you know, we work with the tools that we have available. It's kind of like that with the bar. You know, and this is something that as a coach, you've got to deal with when you're doing distance coaching, you're doing online coaching like this. You don't always have control over what people have access to. You hope that they have the stuff that you need, and if they don't, you improvise and you make it work. Right? You make it work. And you've got to be ready to do that. Fortunately, though, we are very blessed in that she's got a gym with some specialty bars. We've got this glute ham raise and the reverse hyper, because those are game changers. You know, I'm always grateful when my lifters have at least those. I'm always grateful because there's a whole lot of gyms. I would say the overwhelming vast majority of gyms don't have either one, right? Let alone having both. So again, you have to be grateful that we've got that because they've made a phenomenal difference for her, particularly on the deadlift, right? But this is what we finish up with, and then of course she does ab work. So I hope it has been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.